You're listening to the Unpenned Show with Paul and Andy, broadcasting live around the world. We believe freedom is free. It is enslavement that you're paying for. If you ain't mad by now, you're not paying attention.
I have with me this evening for over 30 years. This gentleman has been researching the ancient works, compiling and translating them into more accessible terms in his study of astrotheology. Living in Melbourne, he's a producer of video lectures, special DVDs, hosts a weekly radio show on American Freedom Radio, and presents regular seminars and webinars on demand. Good afternoon to Mr. Santos Bonacci.
Hey, how are you?
Absolutely delighted to have your company, sir. Thank you for joining us for the second time. I have been keeping up with what you're doing, or trying to keep up with what you're doing, but you are now on an absolute roll with presentations. Your enthusiasm, never mind waned over the time that I've been watching you. It's becoming more and more obvious that you're, it's gaining, your enthusiasm is improving all the time.
Yeah, Paul, look, when you uncover things that really are just hiding in plain sight under your nose anyway, and then you just see it for the first time, it's exciting. It's exciting to learn, to awaken. This awakening is beautiful, what's going on. It's just, and that is seen as enthusiasm because we are participating in something so great.
But it's infectious. It's infectious. It is. I don't see it in enough people. I mean, I feel it in myself. I mean, you, Andy, and I here, we've been sort of helping each other along this blind path that we're finally managing to illuminate. And it's every Tuesday we look forward to something new, don't we?
We do, yeah.
We've got our little radio show, and it's not enough really, but it's more than, it's as much as we can manage.
It's time.
But what we do try and do is we try and bring something new every week. And someone like yourself, I mean, I don't know how many researchers who are really into the depth of understanding that you are. I think I can think of 2 or 3 people who really are pushing the envelope, who really are trying to present this information in a way that, I mean, you must feel the same as we do. How many times can you say the same thing 100 different ways?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, look, well, what I'm bringing to the table is syncretism, you know, and syncretism unites all things and shows the interrelatedness of all things. So it's great to specialise, and there's great researchers out there that are specialising in one thing or 2 things or 3 things, but it's also good when you can see how to unite all of those subjects into one sort of tapestry and see the interrelatedness of it. And in particular, when it comes to science and what we call theology, religion, whatever you want to call it. But it's great to see that religion is really science, and science is also the other side of religion. Everything merges into one, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful because it takes away the power from the dividers who teach the opposite of this for their purposes, you know, for the purpose of harvesting human energy. It's very sad that we've fallen to that level where we have allowed entities or institutions to take away our power. But when we realize that we are much more than our names and our bodies and all of these attachments that we have in the physical form. When we realize this and awaken, this is what is called salvation. That's what it means to be saved. So it's no use, you know, saying you're saved because you go to a church. That's not salvation at all. That actually indicates that you need saving. You need to be saved from the church.
You do. I've been there myself. Yeah.
Yeah. But salvation is nonetheless something that must occur to the human being, because we have come from the kingdoms below, the mineral, the plant, the animal, the human. But the human is in the middle, considered to be in the middle and climbing. But the next part, the next thing to reach out for is the hero, or to reach out to be what in the Hebrew system, the Jewish system, is called to be the Jew, or to be, you know, just to be an ascended an ascended one, or to go up into the higher mind. Now, this process occurs within the body, within a lifetime. It's no use waiting for someone to vicariously come along and fix all that stuff up. We save ourselves by climbing up the ladder of our spinal cord in terms of the energy and the fluids in the spinal system, the cerebrospinal system, and we cause that fluid to climb, as it were, and the best part of that fluid, the oils, it's called Christ, the chrism. And as it ascends up the spinal system, and that's measured by 33 degrees, by the way, because of the 33 bones in the spinal column, and that's why Jesus dies at 33, and then Christ rises, because Christ is consciousness, and Jesus is the fluid. And the fluid climbs up the spinal cord, and at the 33rd vertebrae, it stops. It gets crucified. It crosses the vagus nerve at the medulla oblongata, and that's the crucifixion, and then Christ rises. And what that is that the fluid that reaches the optic thalamus remains dead in the third ventricle for 3 days, and then it activates the pineal gland, which produces a fluid which is called the blood of the Christ. And that blood does two things: purifies the blood, and we have a healthy, perfectly healthy body with no disease in it. And this is the new wine that's placed in new wineskins that Jesus spoke about. And the other thing it does is it reactivates the dormant brain cells in the cerebrum. And we have lights switched on when we go through that process of saving ourselves. And salvation, you look at the root of the word salvation, it has salt in it. Because that fluid is salty. Mm-hmm. It's the salt of the earth that you are. And that's what salvation is all about, you see. It's a process, it's an internal process that we need to go through, the process of ascension, on our own merits, on our own strength and will. But we have to know who we are and know that this is a process of metamorphosis that must go on before we can put our wings on. You know, caterpillar just can't climb out of a cocoon and be a butterfly just like instantly. Or whatever. It's the metamorphosis of the caterpillar happens slowly, you see. But the caterpillar knows that it's going to grow wings, and then one day it's a butterfly. Well, see, we humans, we don't realise that we are the ones that need to nurture this metamorphosis, or what's called apotheosis, the becoming of the God. We are not aware of this, that we need to do this, and therefore we are in the land of slumber.
Wow, it is great to listen to, because the way you're describing this reality in the old times fits perfectly with this reality we live in now, except the words we're using are a little bit differently. I mean, there was two things there that you said. First of all was the number 33 and the word salt. And in the things that I enjoy reading about, first of all, 33 is at the first degree that water becomes able to vaporise and fly. At 32 it is still, or could be still, frozen, and at 33 it can fly. And in Waterworld, or Oceania as I prefer to call it, the word salt is the word sail. So it's amazing how the connections are now coming through that, you know, for me they are. I mean, I don't know if it's just me really, but it seems to work with the way I'm sort of seeing things.
Yeah.
Well,
yep, so water starts flying at 33 degrees. There you go.
And it just is. For me, it's all Waterworld, but that's why I like talking to you, because you have an older way of describing the reality that's brought us to today's reality. And although I try and sort of remember the dates, the times, the places, the events, the occasions, the circumstances, I find it very difficult because my brain is very much more interested in the language that we use today, and I can't seem to get the older stuff in. I'm more interested in today's connections. But Jehovah's Witness, I have with me an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and I would say it was a couple of years ago now, wasn't it?
Oh, I was, yeah.
It was certainly a couple of years ago,
Yeah,
and I said, you really want to listen to this gentleman here. and you turned the chair the wrong way around in my front room here.
I did.
And never spoke to me again for over an hour. And we both got up early this morning because, and you said it doesn't matter what time I'm coming to see you.
No, I did. I said, whatever time, ring me, I'll be there.
I think you just wanted to say thank you for making sense of the Jehovah's Witness.
I did, yeah, because you said reading, and Paul uses the word readying, which is what it is. You're readying yourself for what's to come. And if people if some people poo-poo the Bible and say, oh no, you don't want to read, it's a load of rubbish. It's not a load of rubbish. I was forced to read it, so it was part of my Bible studies, as it is for the Jehovah's Witnesses. And I had to do that before any homework at school. It comes before anything. But it set me up for awakening, because religion and politics went closely together. Religion with my parents, and politics with my grandfather. He was he actually contributed to the Communist Party because he'd fought in the Second World War and blah blah blah. And that's history under the bridge. But it fashioned his life, and it fashioned my life. And because I had to read the Bible, that's why when I was watching your presentations on the over the internet there, I would just this is what I want in the Jehovah's Witnesses to tell me, and they were telling me it in a roundabout, sordid way, because all they wanted was the money off you.
Yeah. It's a corporation.
Yeah.
Watchtown Track Society. Watchtown Track Society Incorporated. It's only thing is they don't say incorporated when they're talking in their church. They stop short of that. But of course they are. Of course they're there to do business and to have a group mentality. The sheeple. You know, they are there to look after the sheeple. Because, well, unfortunately, some of us have to go through the fiction. And I happen to be one of those that had to go through the fiction. A lot of people, it depends on what contract you make before you come down into incarnation. Now, we can't remember the contracts, that's the thing. But here we are, nonetheless, in bodies, and some contracts are that we wouldn't have to go through the fictional path. But others have forgotten so much of their divinity that it appears that they are forced to have to go through the fictional path. So the churches have been there for a purpose. They've been there to administer hell. They run the hell business. and it has served a purpose. It's contrary to how we are rationally able to think, but nonetheless, all the evil that has ever been is just the other side of good, which was required for some reason for the collective of this bunch coming through in this cycle of necessity. We've needed it. It's been very brutal.
Yeah.
The last few thousand years, they've been very, very brutal. Murder is the order of the day. If you don't subscribe to the system properly. And they kill you. That's what wars and armies are all about. Just to keep people in fear that there's Big Brother up there, and usually that Big Brother is some greedy bankster, or just the greediest person on the planet, or group of persons. But anyway, the point is that there's the priest and there's the salesman. And we were instructed not to be seduced by either of them, and to keep our own magic. Don't be deceived by the sorcerers. Be a magician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be your own magician. Be your own leader. But you've got to put the work in, haven't you? This is why you've been doing it for 30 years, and it shows in your presentations. And that's what I loved, that you could see that your brain had just been going, but you've been waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and stuff like that with things that sort of spring into your mind, and that's what I loved. And I love the energy that you put through as well. But there is, as Paul said, there is a synchronicity, isn't there? And it's looking back to those ancient times and bringing it to what's happening today, and the things that are going on. It's just amazing how the wizardry that they use to get people to fall for this rubbish. And I was one of them. I did fall for it. It was only 5 years ago that I really met Paul and really started to look at things differently. And I'm sad to say at that point I was in the position when it was the start of the Iraq War. And I was, why are we sending troops into Iraq? Why don't we just nuke them? This is how I thought. And it's the programming that they give you. And it's the time and effort that it takes to deprogram yourself, that the steal offers. They steal that time off you because you're busy paying the queen. You're in the hive situation. You're in the running round like ants to and fro, bringing food and bringing the taxes back to where they're meant to go. And they've got us. They've totally got us trapped and enslaved. And it's fighting your way through that. That's the difficult bit.
Yeah, that's the tricky bit.
But with people like yourselves, it does help. But people have got to read, and Paul's been hammering that into me. He says you've got to go. You can't just do your YouTube. You've got to go away and read and read and read. And I am starting to go back to books and read a little bit more.
Yes, some of us need books. In fact, we all do, but some more than others. This business where you just float along with your intuition and all of that spiritual and the right brain side and all of that, that's not on. We have to engage the left brain. The left brain is not evil. It is sinister. It is the left, and that's where sin comes from, because when you live in the left brain and totally disengage the right brain, or not even acknowledge it, that is what sinning is all about. But the sinister brain is not sinister in that it's evil. We need it, and that's where your reading and all of that stuff comes from. You must supply knowledge to give you understanding and wisdom. You can't just be wise. It doesn't happen. It's got to be based on knowledge, to know. Knowing. Direct knowledge. It's not thinking. See, this is where the world is tricking us to think that it's about thinking. I think, therefore I am. Mm-hmm. I know, therefore I am. would be better. Yeah. But see, that's where thinking disengages us from knowing. The left brain disengages us from the right brain. So when the children of Israel crossed the Red Sea, which is the corpus callosum, the corpus callosum, which connects the two hemispheres, you see, that's the Red Sea. And what they've done, the Israelites are coming back to God, which is the right brain in the cerebrum. So what it means is they've left off from living down in Canaan or Egypt, which is considered to be the lower nature. We have the two natures, and we have to redeem the lower nature and bring it back to the higher nature. Mm-hmm. We've all got the good in us. The good and the beautiful is in us. It's the seed that we are. But it spoils itself when we get distracted and when we get seduced, or when we leave off from the path that we were supposed to be on, from the magnum opus, the great work that we came down to do. Jobs are a distraction from work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They certainly are that.
Yeah, there's lots of distractions from the good work. There's a salesman and a priest on every corner, seducing, unsuspecting, gullible people, and that's their job.
Well, it's his job. We use the word salesman again. That's back to, for me, it fits in with the way I decode it. Everybody's selling something. Some people are selling it relatively cheaply and for helpful purposes. Others, obviously, for the nefarious purposes of profit. And profits, well, they'll tell you anything about the future because they won't pay it.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful reality, though. It really is. But the synchronicities, I mean, in today's modern sort of humans or human beings, as it were, in star time or worldly time, I mean, how old are we really? Are we 3? Are we 4? Are we 5 age? What age are we in this incarnation, do you think, Santos?
Well, it's hard to know because because souls are created to be immortal. So while we are created, we are still immortal, which means that when our souls were created, see, some people have got really, really old souls, which means that the atoms that go along with them in all of their incarnations, those atoms were created a long time ago. And so this is what the soul is. The soul is the subtle atoms which make the part of the body, the spiritual part, which engages or marries with the fleshly part. And those atoms, those spiritual atoms remain in every incarnation. You see, they carry through in every incarnation. And as long as we nurture them and grow them and keep them, we are immortal. But we do reach a point after this cycle of necessity where we are immortal. We have the seeds of immortality now. We are considered to have the seeds, but we are still not considered to be immortal until we ascend, really. And I think the 4th chakra above the head is where we receive the title of immortal, or where we reach the stage of immortal where you can never ever die. But souls can be lost along the way, and some of those souls are younger than the older ones, you see. And how you do that is by not making advancement during incarnation. When you incarnate, that's your window. That's your opportunity to grow. That's why you really want to be engaged in truly good works whilst you are living and breathing. Because when you die, after that, there's no progress. You just linger around and wait for another body to incarnate into. You see? So, and this is why the vicarious saviour serves the controllers, because they teach people in church, oh yeah, don't worry about making all that progress and all that bullshit. Jesus is going to come and save you. He's coming in the clouds. And so everybody's waiting, looking around. Oh, Jesus is coming. Well, and so they put aside one day for holy works during the week, and the rest, you don't know what secrets they're hiding in the privacy of their homes. Some of these church-going types. I know for a fact, being a Jehovah's Witness, that a lot of those families were not really. They look good at the meetings, putting their hands up and answering and participating and knocking on people's doors. They look great, but in the home, there's something wrong, and you can tell. You can see it on their faces. They're hiding things. They're not. Yeah. There's something not right with a lot of those families.
Yeah, I found that myself. It's there's no cohesion in they portray that there's cohesion in the family and they're working as a family unit, but really they're not. They're trying to explode. It's trying to send them on the separate ways, and you realise it's until you look into it that you realise, yeah, that's why they want to go the separate ways, because they don't want somebody at the pulpit telling them what to do. That they want to learn themselves. They need to experience this themselves, but they do need to be able to go back to somebody at some time and say, I've read it this way. How do you see it? And I think that's why me and Paul have got on so well. Is we go away and experience things through the week, and then we meet up on a Tuesday, and then we brainstorm it all, don't we?
Talking to? What have you seen? Yes. What have you it is fantastic. I mean, I absolutely. I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing. I'd rather be doing it with a brighter outlook, because it is a bit gloomy at the moment. Yeah. But I don't like my shows to be gloom and doom. I actually point out the truth and then just say, but we can change it. We can change it. It's not the 1% that are the problem. It's the 99% that perhaps don't realise they're the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't.
No,
Sheeple.
they are, yeah. Both me and Paul don't like that term, really. I know it's, I don't know. There's certain things that you take on and you don't take on, and that's fine. We're all individuals. But we try not to use that term a little bit because we were there at that time. I've been one of those.
Yeah.
And I know what it's like to be one of those. And I'm not necessarily saying that I'm totally enjoying what's happening now, because it brings other problems within your life, in family life, in that your family don't realise what you or can't get what you're doing, and they think you're going nuts.
But you're not going nuts, you're getting mad. Yeah. It's different, isn't it?
It is.
See, we think mad and nuts are the same thing. Well, they're not.
They're not, no.
They're not. Nuts is whatever you describe it to be, but mad is anger. That's different. It's the anger. It's the anger of now figuring out that we've been lied to, we've been scammed.
That snake oil salesman with his briefcase taking all my money.
Exactly, and it's people like Santos that, confirm it. I mean, when you watch YouTube, you don't want to believe it, do you?
No.
You don't actually want to believe it, and you think, well, this can't be true, otherwise I would know. I would know. Nobody could do this to me. But when the depth of understanding comes, and when you realise why politics has to exist, when you realise that hierarchy, if hierarchy didn't exist, we'd invent it tomorrow. Because it exists in all nature, doesn't it? We cannot go against the forces, but we have to learn the forces and then go with flow. But then try and direct the streams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it, I'm awake now.
Oh, this is great, guys. We're participating in just a beautiful awakening, and we're witnessing it. It's a marvel to see what is happening to the human race. It's just a marvel. It's beautiful. Great time to be alive.
It is. It is. What I wanted to thank you for as well was the way that you introduced the body salts thing. When you look back now, you see so many people with so many allergies and things like that. I have terrible asthma and hay fever. We've got my wife's found out that she's intolerant to gluten, and that may have been passed on to my daughter. And she's been going through going to see the doctor, and the doctor put her back on gluten for 6 weeks, and it made her really poorly. She had time off work and things like this. And I had the information in front of me. From what you about the body salts, and I've done a thing that I've never done before. I gave my wife a list of presents. When they say, "Oh, what do you want for Christmas or your birthday or whatever?" And I said, "If you want to get me anything, get me that book." And it's the book by Arcade, facial. Where he goes in and diagnoses the face and tell you what body salts you're missing. And it's amazing.
Facial diagnosis of cell salt deficiencies.
That's the one by Arcade, yeah. And it's amazing. You start looking at people now. You're
making me nervous here.
You start to study the face, and I've only sort of scratched the surface of it because I'm on another book at the moment. I want to finish that first because I've borrowed it off Paul. I want to get it back to him.
He's on Tragedy and Hope. That's what he's on.
It's a bloody big book, and the attention span that they've stolen from us is not there anymore. And I just wish I'd discovered this information 20 years ago.
But your wishes have been granted now.
They have.
You see, the universe has granted your wishes. You've had to wait. But she grants you your wishes every day because she gives you a gift and it's called a present, and you can have a new one every day.
Every day, yeah.
That's what she does. She's lovely. She is. These body salts, I didn't hear this one, but I'm going to ask Santos to perhaps give us a brief sort of overview of the body salts and why we should take note of them.
Yeah, well, it's been discovered by a German biochemist in the 1800s called Schussler that there were 12 tissue salts that are essential minerals for the body. And in the 1900s, George Carey, who is also a biochemist but also an occult scientist, was able to merge astrology with the 12 sciences and the 12 systems of the body, i.e. the skeletal, cerebrospinal, respiratory, etc., etc., the 12 systems. And he interrelated the salts with the signs of the zodiac. So, obviously, having knowledge of astrology, he would know that, for instance, Capricorn rules the skeletal system. Capricorn is cardinal Earth, and Saturn being lead, the ruler of Capricorn, gives the densest sign of the zodiac. There is no denser. Then you have, for instance, the exact opposite of that would be the highest vibrating of the body parts, which would be the cerebrospinal system, and that's controlled by Aries. So you see the sheep and the goats. And this is why you have the sheep and the goats as a motif in your scriptures. Mm-hmm. And you see the salt for the bones is calcium phosphate, and the tissue salt for the cerebrospinal system is the highest vibrating one, which is potassium phosphate. You see? So you have the highest vibrating and possibly the lowest, I'm not sure about that, but calcium phosphate is for the bones, you see? Mm-hmm. And so what he discovered, George Carey, is that every human being is deficient in 3 of those salts. There are 12 of them. And this is the order of the salts. I'll just go through them quickly so that your listeners can pause at leisure and get the names of them. Aries, potassium phosphate. Taurus, sodium sulfate. Gemini, potassium chloride. Cancer, calcium fluoride. Leo, magnesium phosphate. Virgo, potassium sulfate. Libra, sodium phosphate. Scorpio, calcium sulfate. Sagittarius, silica. Capricorn, calcium phosphate.
Oh, we've lost him.
I think we... Right, I think we have actually lost him there, so we'll just stop the recording there for the moment.
Yes, and the Scorpio one, I'll just repeat the Scorpio one just in case you missed that one. So Scorpio is calcium sulfate. Sagittarius is silica. Capricorn is calcium phosphate. Aquarius is sodium chloride. And Pisces is iron phosphate. And so what George Carey discovered was that we are all deficient in 3 salts. And these are the salts from the moment we are born. For instance, if you're born in, say, March the 24th, like myself, Aries, you will be deficient in Aries and Taurus and Gemini. So you'll be deficient in 3 signs because the other 9 were developed in your mother's womb. And so they are part of the Philosopher's Stone. See, the whole 12 make up the Philosopher's Stone. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and once you add the other 3 and you supplement those to your body, in particular those 3, then you will not have the common sicknesses that are related to those deficiencies. You see, for instance, calcium it will give bone weaknesses if you're deficient in calcium phosphate. Those deficient in potassium phosphate will have headaches and problems with processing mental things and etc. The mind, the brain, and so on and so forth. And Dr. Carey did countless tests on many patients and discovered all of the science with the cell salts to be pure science, and he established it forever, basically, by all the tests that he had done, and he was able to heal many people. He was able to diagnose people's problems and help them with the cell salts. And he did wonders. Basically, he did just wonders with the cell salts and advanced them even further than Schussler. So, but what we suspect is that this science was known thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
For it could not have not been known, because it's the ultimate way to heal the body. The body requires these 12 minerals, and each sign resonates with one of those inorganic mineral salts. And we know that the body is a pillar of salt. So these salts are the salts of salvation, you see?
Mm-hmm.
And they make up the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah.
How much have we forgotten along the way? How much have we forgotten along the way? Well, the word remember is to put back together, and good God, we've got a lot of remembering to do, haven't we?
We certainly have. And there's little things that, I mean, you mentioned the Philosopher's Stone there, and if people are listening to this for the first time, the connection I make is with the Harry Potter films and the Philosopher's Stone. And until you've studied, and I've only scratched the surface, and I'm still wanting more and more and more, and that's why it's so nice to talk to you this afternoon down in Australia. It's so nice. The synchronicity of it, as we were saying before we came on air, things pop out at you. They just jump out at you, and you think, Where have I heard that before? Where have I made that connection?
But you're not waiting for someone to sing now, are you?
No.
Because to sing is to hear, but to sign is to see. That's the difference. You can now see the signs. You weren't looking for them before.
No.
You didn't realise that this is a journey and you've got to follow the right signs. I know. We just, SEA, SEE, duality, same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, loving it.
It is. It's a wonderful, it is a brilliant reality. I mean, if I had to say, this is a review, I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball here, Santos. Are you ready?
Yep.
Reality. Describing reality. I'm going to practice while you're doing yours. How would you describe reality to somebody who says, what is it? That was a curveball, wasn't it?
Well, no, that's a beauty. I'll tell you, that is absolutely a beautiful question, because I now would like to find a beautiful passage. I hope I can find this passage where Thomas H. Burgoyne, probably the most important book you'd ever want to read on occult science, The Light of Egypt, or The Science of the Soul and the Stars by Thomas H. Burgoyne.
Definitely
the most exquisite literature you will ever read. The most exquisite literature. Now, I hope I can find the passage. I'll have to. Do you
want me to make a hash of it first?
Yeah, give you a summary of it first, and then eventually I think I should find it. But what he's saying is that our perspective, as we ascend up that spinal cord of reality, is always changing. You see, when we're in the lower mind, there's good and evil. When you reach the higher mind, even though you participate in good and evil, you can now see unity. You can see it.
Mm-hmm.
You have a bigger perspective now. It's like if you've had children and you've watched them, a 2-year-old child will have his 2-year-old toys. But when he gets to 4, he laughs at the toys that he was playing with when he was 2.
Brilliant.
But his 4-year-old toys, they make sense. That's where he's at, and he thinks these toys are great. But those 2-year-old toys I used to have, they're funny. And then you get to 8,
yep.
and the 4-year-old toys are in a different perspective now. And see, grown-ups still have their toys.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So toy boys all around. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Look at my new SUV. Oh, cost me $50,000.
Yeah. Another meaning for toy boy. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's real to them. Those SUVs are real, man. You got to work hard for those. There's sweat and there's blood and there's a lot of loss of sleep to get them. So for those people that believe in them, they are real. But to me, they're just, well, there's a different perspective. I don't need to describe it, but I mean, a car is it's just a vibration, and it's a useful thing, but it does not have, it cannot serve me the way it does someone who really believes in that, in those toys.
I know what you mean.
Because I can't get satisfaction out of sitting in a Ferrari or something like that, and everybody looking at me and envying me. I can't get satisfaction out of that anymore.
Do you know,
I may have 20 years ago and thought I was pretty good, in a hot little car, and all the girls are looking at me. Woo! Aren't so cool. But now, those days are over. It's just can't do it. No. And so there's reality for you, And blessed is the one that reaches the highest conception of reality that you can whilst you are in material form. Reach out for it, guys. Reach out for it, and have eyes to see and ears to hear, because we are capable of changing reality.
That's what we do all day. I mean, we are change all day. We don't realise the changes that we actually... everything we do is change. When we drink water, we change it into something else. When we eat food, we change it into something else. When we take a monetary note out of our pocket and we hand it over in exchange for something, so we've exchanged and we receive change. Everything is changed. Nothing is static. It cannot be static. It must always be moving. Because as the world whirs, or whirls as it were, the words whir. We have to keep going round and round all the time. People talk about revolution, but everything's a revolution. A day's a revolution. It has a beginning and an end, and that completes the circle. And then you get up again or cycle and do it again tomorrow. Everything has to go round in a circle and get back to the start so it can go round again. It is a magic roundabout that we live on.
Yes.
And you sort of mentioned there about reality, and I thought that was a brilliant description, because I was following it all the way through. I was following the baby stage of the breaststroke, which is not only feeding yourself but learning to swim, and then I was following the next stage of crawling, which is moving forward on the land and swimming in the sea, and then I was getting stood upright so you can actually become your own master, as it were, the captain of your own ship. And I was doing that with you all the way, because that's how I describe it in my language, but I always use the growing up analogy to do it.
Yes.
And right, okay, let's change subjects a little bit if we can. Well, not changing subjects, but moving along to the many subjects that you can cover. And astrotheology is something that I think that's how we met. That's how we met, Santos, wasn't it? Talking about astrotheology, and the connection to the stars, and the cipher that the stars are given to those that cipher it. Yeah. And I've got a question here, Santos, if I may, and that is that we are now coming to the end of the age of Pisces. I am understanding that correct, aren't I?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're travelling backwards in this system. So our next stop is Aquarius.
Yep.
So Stardate, if we use Stardate, we're around about, February the 22nd, February the 23rd, going backwards through the calendar? Sort of, maybe about that Stardate time?
Oh, yes, you're placing it in that, yeah, exactly.
Okay,
right there, yes.
So we're moving back into what might be termed the darker ages. So we're going to have to fight very hard to keep this light, to keep the light going, as it were. But for every negative, there's a positive, and I know that you do see this as a really positive step forward.
Absolutely. See, the precessional cycle now, with the cycle that you've learnt, the astrological cycle, which begins at the 21st of March, which ushers in Aries and then Taurus and Gemini, going forward. See, the yearly cycle goes forward, and the daily cycle goes forward. Precession goes backwards. But precession does not... You see, we've been in Pisces, which is the Dark Ages. But we're not necessarily proceeding into darker ages as we go into Aquarius. It's actually a lighter age. It's a better age. So precession does not respect the order of the forward order of the zodiac in the yearly and the daily. Okay, it's a different It's a different mechanism that runs it, and that is, our sun is in a binary with another star.
Mm-hmm.
Now, astronomers in consensus world, at least, are now acknowledging that 80% of all the stars they've observed are in binaries. Now, 50 odd years ago, that figure was much smaller. Now it's grown up to about 80% of stars that they've observed are in binaries. And they say that eventually they will realise that the figure will be 100% of stars.
So everything's
in binaries.
Everything's dancing with something else.
Yeah. And so, and it appears that our sun is dancing with Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. And so as they go around each other clockwise, the signs of the zodiac appear to go around backwards in the reverse order of the usual daily and yearly order. So as they go around each other, it takes about 26,000 years, from 24,000 to 26,000 years, this backward cycle. And so the sun appears to be going backwards through Pisces, and now it's reaching Aquarius, and it'll go backwards through that all the way through to Capricorn. Capricorn is associated with winter, and so is Aquarius, and so is Pisces in the yearly cycle. But in precession, it does not equate with winter, and it does not equate with the darkness of winter. The Pisces portion does, certainly. Certainly the Pisces portion does, but that's simply because the Dark Ages only last for about 2,000 years. In this 24,000 year cycle we live in, the darkest of the ages is the shortest period. The golden part is the longest period. It's about 8 to 10,000 years long. And that occurs when our stars are closer to each other, Sirius and our sun. So we receive the benefits of having Sirius up close to us. She gives us more consciousness. It's a very, very powerful star system. In fact, in 1989, scientists observed that Sirius B, which is it's a very dense star. It's about 300 times harder than diamond at the surface and 3,000 times harder than diamond in its core. And it spins on its axis 23 times in a minute. And it revolves around Sirius A. Every 50 years it does a revolution. Now, when Sirius B comes in between our sun and Sirius A, when it crosses in between, like an eclipse, scientists noticed that happened in 89, and our Earth slowed down for 2 weeks. It slowed down in its rotation as Sirius B was passing through between the two stars. And now this star system, we're talking 8.4 light years away, and we have a star that is able to slow down our Earth and speed it up from 8 light years away. Now that shows how much it affects our Earth. Imagine how much it affects our consciousness as it's hurtling towards us at 20 miles a second. That's how fast it's hurtling towards us.
You certainly have me thinking. This isn't research that I actually have looked into, but we have tried to follow it, haven't we?
We have,
We have been, because we do know the Sun, Moon and Star system, the SMS system, for those that care to study it, is what's been used. That is derived, the word solar is the control system. It is the Sun, Moon and the stars. We do know that. And solar is, it's like our soul, isn't it? It's our spirit. It's apparently what we are and why we are it.
Yes, it is. Absolutely, that's true. Solar is the soul. Different spelling, same meaning, absolutely same meaning. Because the sun is not just a physical body. It's a spiritual body, and it has a soul. So that's what they call the sun behind the sun. They always knew that there were three suns.
All these stories stack, don't they? It's always threes, and it's all... Again, I mean, I'm so embarrassed that I ignored the Bible for so long, and it was you that really made me think, God, how ignorant am I? You know, I mean, us two meeting was you know, the best thing could have happened, really, because off we went then, didn't we?
We did.
It's a wonderful one. I mean, it makes so much sense about the story about God's Son. You know, the light of the earth, the giver of eternal life. If God's Son doesn't rise, then we will all die, and that sort of thing. But that's just one version of reality, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that there isn't a Jesus or a God.
No.
It's just a version of reality that fits with a certain band of people. I mean, I actually think the more I study, the more I realise why they trusted the sunshine. Because out of all the things that we study, we realise that we're only being told what the truth is. And we realise why philosophers over the years have argued about the truth. And they've tried to define the truth. And many come to the same ending that I agree with. The only thing you can believe is that the sun's going to come up, so believe it. The rest of the stuff, you can argue till it goes down again.
Yeah.
And it does make sense to me why they worshipped it, and why we still worship it now, really. Not in the direct fashion that I think we used to years ago. But all the language points to sun worship, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And we lay out on the beaches and say we are sun worshippers. And the number one newspaper in the UK is The Sun. And it comes every morning. But that's just the advertisers playing the games, I know that.
Yeah, it's the saviour. Because it saves all of the vital force in the solar system. It is the solar system. It's a body. It's the saviour. It's the Christ. It's the Archangel Michael. And an archangel is the ruler over angels. And the angels that occupy the orb of the sun, these are great, intelligent souls. And the reason why we say we have reverence or worship for them is because we acknowledge that they are higher up in the order of closeness to God, the source. And it's like, I mean, you wouldn't keep a dog that didn't really respect you and worship you. I mean, obviously animals don't worship you, but they have a worshipful respect for their owners. My dog, you know, she just adores me. I am everything for her. You know,
she's coming in right on time. We can hear her.
Yeah. She's trying to do. She's trying to bury my socks. She always gets my socks. When I take my socks off, because it's hot now, and we're going to go for a walk after this show. She knows it's walk time, and she's trying to bury my socks. You see, she loves me, and she always shows me that love. You see, so that's how we should be in respect to the sun. We should always honour the sun. The sun is loving us. It loves us so much, and we always say that the sun gives his life on our behalf, because every night it goes down and it's crucified in the darkness and disappears, but comes up to save us again the next morning. And in the winter, the same thing happens as the Christ dies for our sins. And this is not literal, it's not true, and yet it is true, because it's mystically true. It's a mystical truth. It's a mythical truth. It's above rational truth. This is something that you don't speak about rationally. It's something about knowing. You know, we know that the sun... It's funny, you know, because kids at school and churchgoers get told how important the sun is. It's not that they don't know that it's not important. They know it's important. And they know that it is the chief cause of our sustenance. And yet, they can't make that step to work out that that's what the scriptures are talking about, and that's all they're talking about. They just can't make that step. And this is how powerful mind control is, you know. They just cannot see it, that it's one and the same thing.
Yeah. I was just, when you were talking there, I was just thinking about a child when they draw the first picture, and what are they're taught to draw this big sun in the corner, aren't they? The blue sky at the top, the green grass at the bottom, and the big sun in the corner with the rays coming out down onto the people below that they've drawn. They've drawn the mum, the dad, and the dog, and and that's where it takes it. Yeah, and then they pulp that then, don't they, in the pulpit to a different mind control, like you said, and as Paul says, they contract it, and they get us to contract with them. And they understand that it's making it smaller. And we were just having a conversation before we went on air about, Paul mentioned SMS, the texting, and we've decoded that a little bit in how we talk. And it's SMS, the stars, the moon, and the sun, the moon, and the stars. And then as we were talking.
We've got the simple message service.
The simple message service.
But we've got our little smileys and everything. We've got everything. I mean, and in the middle they've got symbols, media, and signs, obviously.
Yeah.
And subliminals, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and then because they're dumbing us down and the contracting us, making us smaller, and the dimming the lights with the chemtrails, because they don't want this sun. They don't want the sun to come through onto us and get to your pineal gland. And when you start to make all these connections. And then I said to Paul tonight, the other version of SMS is small-minded slave.
Yeah, exactly, small. But they want, but they want us to have lessons, don't they?
They do.
You see, because on is to illuminate, and they want to teach us a lesson.
They do, yeah.
We're taught morons are dim and lessons are bright, and that doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. No.
Wow, that's brilliant. Yeah, brilliant.
That doesn't make sense at all. So you get more if you listen. I don't think so. No. I don't think that could be correct.
But we do laugh, and it's nice to be able to laugh about it as well.
Yep.
And we were just saying when we came on, it's not about the doom and gloom. It's about going back to your analogy about the toys. You've outgrown those toys, and they've gone back in the toy box. And we cling on to things, don't we? And I see where this Star Trek thing comes from now. That's so bombards your mind.
You've never said that one before. Where's that come from?
Where it was with the cling on thing. You cling on to the things. But we had one the other day about we've had elections for commissioners that are going to be over the police, and we were thinking back to our childhood when we were watching Batman. And they had a Commissioner Gordon, and they're just making us younger and younger and younger, or trying to make us and put us back into our cradle, aren't they?
Into the matrix.
Back into the womb.
Into the womb, into the matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see. I mean, this is a lie wrapped in a fairy tale called bloody virtual reality.
It certainly is.
They've done a number on us. They're sorcerers, you see. They worked all this stuff out first and then plotted against us. Very clever.
Very, very clever.
Aliens.
It was a good plot.
Yeah, Paul was just saying then aliens. They have made us aliens, haven't they? We are, and some people do say we're not suited to this environment. We actually control the environment that we're in. So that does make us the creatures that are here. The birds, the insects, the frogs, they all seem to get along quite nicely without us. But when we come along and change things,
we're the destruction.
We're the alien to that environment. We can't survive in that environment without destroying it and making it into something else.
But we know they've dissected us and mated us.
Yeah.
We know they've cut and cut and cut and cut and cut by dissecto is to cut. And if you mate it, dissecto and mate comes to domesticate. You know, and if you want to domesticate somebody, just keep feeding them. Just keep feeding them, and eventually they will know nothing else.
Yeah.
Sorry, Santos. We didn't forget you were here.
I always think about how easy it is to entertain my dog and how to catch her attention. All I've got to do is hold a ball in my hand.
Yeah.
And I've got her for hours and hours and hours. And that's what they do. What they do is they give us new toys, and they hold them up. And people go, well, look at that. And they're caught just by that magic. It's magic.
They are.
And they just hold things up all the time. New toys, new this, try that, look at this.
We've got 2 dogs in our family. My son's got a dog as well. And he moved back home when things went pear-shaped with him when he tried to move out, and just because of money, really. And he ended up back home, bringing the dog back with him. So we've 2 dogs in our family now. And my son's dog's like your dog. All she's interested in is ball and fetch and carry, and she picked up the biggest stick yesterday. We would just say, no, it's too big. She'd drop it in front of you, and no, it's too big. I'm not throwing that. And the other dog that we've got, which is our dog, she's the old dog. She totally different. She's not bothered about the sticks. She wants to be off, and she's in the river, and she's sniffing things out. But it's funny to distract the other dog's attention when she thinks she's not getting enough attention because we're throwing the ball. She'll go and pinch the ball off the dog and bring it to us and say, throw it for me now, because I'm sick of it. But Paul's made, when we sit and talk like we are doing now, and you chew things over, we're chewing the cud. Paul made the dog analogy a few times, and I've sat and listened to it because it's the way he puts things, and I'm not as articulate with my words, really, because I've not done enough reading, and I do need to do a lot more reading. But yeah, he's done the dog analogy and how we're dogs, and really the women are cats and things like that. So.
Well, in some ways, I mean,
yeah.
Obviously people try and take everything as a oneer and understand it. And
yeah.
It's only part of the understanding. Mm-hmm. That guys do respond a little bit like dogs, and all they really want is a pat on the head and a thanks very much. Mm-hmm. And it is true to an extent. If like your wife would say, thanks very much, you're doing a great job, I'm really pleased to be with you. That's whatever was outstanding is currently now cleared, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The account is clear, and tomorrow he'll get up and try even harder. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of how the guys are.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, anyway. And the girls are a bit more trickery.
Yeah.
They're a bit more trickery because they don't have the physical power, but they have the spiritual power. They are the mother. They are the nature, and they are not worship, but we should understand that women are the higher power.
Yeah,
yeah, I think so. Anyway.
Yeah.
We haven't forgotten Santos.
No, I was just going to say, what are your thoughts on the husband and wife partnership? I know the Jehovah's Witnesses say that the husband is the head of the house, and the wife has got to do what the husband says. And my wife would never go with that train of thought, I'm afraid. And I wouldn't want to put that train of thought into her head, because she is a different person. I am a different person, and it does cause arguments. And we do tend to row a lot. So I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
Well, men are supposed to be in charge of the they're supposed to be using their strength and their brute force, but they're supposed to be subject to their wives. It's the other way around. Mm. It doesn't mean, but see, when matriarchy is properly practiced, both share this responsibility. It's not unbalanced. When patriarchy comes in, the woman's evil and men are good. But when matriarchy comes in, both are good. It's unfair, but that's how it works. And matriarchy doesn't sort of work like that. But on this planet, we are supposed to be under matriarchy. Patriarchy is an aberration. It doesn't work. It's not about, If all the men on this planet listened to their mothers and their wives, they wouldn't go to war. There wouldn't be a war, you see. And that's why they've usurped that natural sharing of the partnership. And the woman is in charge of her department. There are things that a woman does best, and then the woman needs to do those, and the husband should subject himself to his wife for those things, and then the woman should respect that the husband's got more strength, so he's going to be able to lift the logs and do the heavy stuff, and he should take charge of that part. It's a relationship, and that's how it works. How
it's been corrupted over the years as well by feminism and everything else that's poisoned these complementary relationships, which we should be in. A relationship should be a complement. And simply by being a couple, you're both paying each other the compliment. So it's got to be complementary. Anyway, you're absolutely right. We've been corrupted to the point of, well, we're going to have to probably take a little bit more of this trouble that we're in before more people figure it out. It is a shame, but it is also a way to learn, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
You know, it is, and I really, I do appreciate, because you don't see the future as negative. You see the future as positive. And if I had to ask you to perhaps give me your vision of the future, perhaps not in one lifetime, but over a number of lifetimes of how you think the good, which obviously will win. It's just how long the good takes to rise up before we win. How do you see it in more than one lifetime? Sort of what timescale do you see us working to? Oh, we haven't lost you yet.
We've lost him, yeah.
Have we lost?
Oh, sorry, no,
he's still there.
I had my mic on mute.
Oh, sorry.
I'm here. The potential is for us to have this beautiful world that we envisage in our hearts within months. You know, in the age of Aquarius, in the next few months, we can have a really transformed world. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen. But certainly, 10, 20 years down the track, there will be nothing but bliss on this planet. I'm not 100% sure about the very, very near future, but I'm 100% sure about 5 or 6 or 10 years down the track that there will be firmly established, bliss will be firmly established on this planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm
wondering whether there are a few dynamics and factors that cause me to think that maybe there's going to be a few more, there could be a couple more years of a lot of trouble on this planet.
Mm.
And it really does depend on us. That's all it depends on. There's nothing else. When there's no vicarious, there's nothing else going on. It's just us.
And this is
we are the ones. What can we pull off? That's the question.
Yes, it is. Yeah. I mean, we do what we do because we feel compelled to do it, don't we? There's an inner feeling of like, if I don't do this, everything else feels pointless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can live in the regular world and I can go out to the pictures, and I went bowling yesterday evening.
Mm.
I don't feel uncomfortable in the outside world. But it doesn't have the same value as this. This, for me, feels like, if this is as far as I get, it's further than I thought I would get.
Mm-hmm.
And that person that I see in the mirror every day, it is me. It's not somebody I think I am. It's not somebody I wish I was. It's actually me. And I'm okay with it.
Yeah, we are knowing who we are.
Mm-hmm.
What is happening to us every day now, exponentially, is we are knowing who we are. It's beautiful to discover who we are and how much we knew and how much we can remember. There's much, much more to remember. I delight when I do my presentations because I know that I am my audience that is watching me, and my audience is also unfolding as they see what the zodiac can tell them. You know, I love to show them, look what's hiding in the zodiac. Look at this word here. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this symbol. Look at this. This joins with that. That joins with this. And I love doing that because everybody's participating. Everybody who sees the presentation is a part of it. They are contributing to the remembering of this science. And it's great to see that it's come back and that it was all along, it was always there. They could never, the satanic so-called Christian churches that are high sorcery, death cult, have never been able to put astrology away. Thank the universe for that.
Mm.
We need to praise the living God, whatever you want to call it. Praise the heavens that astrology was not destroyed by this evil entity that has caused a vicious inquisition on this planet. They've tried viciously to get rid of astrology, and we need to be so thankful that we still have this science intact.
I've never felt so alive.
No.
I have never ever felt so alive, so enthusiastic, so awake, so concerned, and I can understand. Now if you're still rowing with people, I don't think you've got it yet, because you should be rowing with them, sitting with them, and listening. And even if you don't agree, you will get something from that person that you didn't have previously, even if it's why they think what they think and why you disagree. But if you want people to listen to you and gain, in other words, listen and earn, which is learn, if you want them to listen to you and gain, you've got to play the compliment back and stop. I think, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but I don't know if I've mentioned this before. Once I sort of got a handle on the handle being the door, being the reveal, being the walk into the room that you've not been in before, but once I got a hang of this, I realised that conversationally, we're quite rude, aren't we? We don't let each other finish, and we actually spin each other's words so it sounds like we've said it, or we perhaps misinterpret it and get it wrong, and then 2 or 3 hours later we realise we've made a right prat of ourselves. But we don't actually listen. We're waiting for the gaps so we can get back in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
We were all waiting for the point to go back in then, weren't we? Yeah.
Yep. But that's how it feels. I mean, it is. And when you hear people chattering, I mean, I've got a shop here in North Yorkshire. If you could picture the UK and put a pin right in the middle, you perhaps, if they drop a bomb on this country right in the middle, it'll be my bloody chip shop. It gets bombed, I'll tell you. Right in the bloody middle. But, yeah. And I listen to people chattering, and they're not actually complimenting each other at all. It's actually a war going on. There's a fight going on here. It's a challenge. It's a boxing match because they're talking about stuff, and they're trying to score points. And you think, hang on, these people aren't friends at all. They're actually trying to outdo each other.
Yeah. Instead of getting along and sharing what they know.
Yeah. Well, they're rowing instead of rowing. Anyway, Santos, it is. I mean, I agree with what you've said, that the years to come are going to be the most exciting that we've ever lived. But isn't that the challenge that every man wants? Isn't that what's inside every man that still has the instinct to detect that our survival, the family survival, the community survival, and all we're going to be, has always been down to him? I mean, when I figured out that there's a problem with this world, and do you know what it is? It's bloody me. I'm the bloody problem. I don't know what I need to know. And isn't that the challenge? Yeah. Isn't that what's going to keep me busy and never using the word I'm bored again?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It is. It's we. We need to stand up now, and we've done it. We've come to the realisation that we have participated in this horrible, sleepful state that we are in collectively, and as cells awaken, because that's what we are individual cells of this body, this organism of consciousness, and as one cell awakens, see, I woke up about 6 or 7 years ago, so I'm on the path now. I've helped some others along the way. There were ones that were awakened 30 years ago. There are ones that are awakening today. But what's happening is that once you awaken properly, it adds to the critical mass. And it's very highly unlikely that you will go backward, back into slumber. That's very unlikely.
I don't think it's possible, is it?
No.
Not really.
No, not for guys like you and I.
No, definitely not.
It's your knowledge that inspired me to actually. I realised that when I was listening to you, it was like I was enjoying what you were saying, although I didn't get a lot of it. I was thinking, but I couldn't stop listening, and I had the luxury of listening on my own. And that's that was the key for me. I mean, most people are in family situations and they're on like tiny tables where they can't have enough time to really study, and solitude is a very valuable thing. And once you think, well, I didn't quite get that, but for some reason I can't stop listening to it, and it was your breakdown of the stars and the control system and the connections that made me think, I'm going to have to figure this out. But I figured it out in my own way, and it's different to everybody else's way. And maybe that's how it feels for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, we all bring a different flavour to the table, and the spell gets mixed together, and who knows what we'll create. Because it can't be any worse than we've got now. Because what we've got now is a predatory system that will have us, has inducted us into indebted servitude. And it's only through an illusion called money.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I don't think the globe can tolerate this anymore. I mean, the inequalities now. I mean, some of the politicians, some of the names that we know are now starting to speak out, aren't they? They're starting to say that this can't be right. I mean, we've got half the world going to bed starving each night, and we've got the other half with too much bloody food to eat.
It's wrong.
If we can't organise at least that, then why can't we organise that? We're starting to ask the right questions now.
Yeah.
You know, opinions, well, they're not worth a jot. Take an opinion to court and tell the judge. He'll have you whisked away in seconds, and opinion's no good to him. And 99% of the population, they don't read newspapers, they don't watch the news, they don't read books, they have no idea about history or religion or anything at all, but ask them an opinion. They've got a bloody opinion on everything. But it's starting to change, isn't it? It is starting to change.
Mine is, yeah.
It is. It's exciting times, Santos, and it's great to be part of it. And my thanks to you for helping me along my way. It really is my pleasure to speak to you.
Yeah, my pleasure too. My pleasure. There's no greater satisfaction than to hear that someone's benefited.
And I have. Thank you very much. Yes.
That's all we do it for. So, Santos, please tell us what you're up to and what you've got upcoming, because the last presentation I heard, you said you've got many presentations on the way. You're preparing them all. You're a very busy guy, and I think on behalf of everybody listening, again, thank you very much. So tell us what you're up to and where we can find out more.
Well, I'm currently editing a presentation I did on the weekend, and then I've got another one this weekend. So there's two imminent presentations for the listeners, and then after that I'm going to do one on astrology, and I'm going to basically explain how astrology works simply, number one, and I'm also going to show how it is that astrology is based on science, and how, for instance, the elites use it and are well aware of it. And I'm going to go into events like 9/11 and show how all the stars in the sky on the day conspired to bring that event about. Every single one of them. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Capricorn, all the signs, all the stars. I'll go through every single one of them and show how they all aligned on that day, and specifically for the two plane crashes. You will see it, and it'll blow your mind.
It sounds like it certainly will. I look forward to that presentation. I shall certainly promote your upcoming events on our station pages. From all at criticalmassradio.co.uk, Mr. Santos Bonacci, thank you very much.
Thank you.